Hello and welcome to the Low Code Cafe. This is episode number 190 for September 24th, 2025. Today we'll be talking about doing precision search using our search product, which under the hood has a Lucene index. We'll also be using the filters capability so that you'll be able to create powerful and user-friendly search functionality. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plant and App, joined by Manu, who is Product Manager for Plant and App, and together we'll be presenting for the next hour. The Low Code Cafe is an event that we do on Wednesdays. It's the last Wednesday of the month, 10 a.m. And yeah, we demonstrate do demonstrations on our products, do updates about things that are going on, but we try to spend the most amount of time on hands-on coding, and that's going to be the case again today. These are all recorded and put on YouTube, so you can get to them youtube.com/plantandapp, and you should definitely subscribe so that you get notification when we post a new one. So 189 hours of training content out there on YouTube already. We'll add another hour today. Our agenda, we're going to do it's mostly me talking. We're going to do our From the Trenches segment, talking about things that are going on support, and then we'll spend our most time on hands-on low coding our solution. We do hope you'll engage with us. You can use the chat window or the Q&A window here on Zoom. Raise your hand if you want to talk, and after it's all over, there's a feedback form. We'd love to hear from you, what you thought, what you'd like to see next time. So Low Code Cafe presented the last Wednesday of every month, so the next live webinar is going to be on October 29. So getting right into it, from the trenches of support. And I'm trying something different today. I've got my mouse click showing where I click, so hopefully that won't be too much of a distraction, maybe help you understand what's going on as I interact. So that's what that little bubble is that's popping up. We have two versions that are the current version is version 1.27 of Plant and App. 1.26 is still in its supported until window, so it's supported through the end of December this year. And then we have a standard support window of 1 year on all our products. So hopefully you're on one of these two versions. If not, it'd be great if you make plans to upgrade, and you're always welcome to enter a support ticket if you want to, if you need any help or have any questions on that process. With regard to hotfixes, this is my 126 hotfix system, just to demonstrate what's available to you. So if you go to the configuration update screen and click on hotfixes, you can see since the last time we got together, there's two hotfixes available. This is under our old, 126 has our older hotfix mechanism, and so you'll see the hotfixes tab, and the hotfix here has to do with more reliable deployment of the additional pages that come in under App Builder, like this updates screen. So if you don't know, we use our code, our low code, as part of the pages here on the configuration menu. And so this is just getting better at deploying them. And then we also had a fix with improving the tokens upgrade stability. So both of those things are available. I recommend that you click to do install all, and then install the selected hotfixes. Just say yes. And while that processes, I have another system open here. This is our 127 hotfixes. And I don't know, I see there's the hotfixes, but then there's the cumulative hotfixes. This is where I recommend that you go. Um, these are going to give wording on all the different things that are available to you. And this new hotfix mechanism shows a lot more, well, let's just say friendly description of what you're going to get. So you get this overview, and then if you look in the view hotfixes and install, there are you can hover the icon and see in detail what you're going to get. Um, I'm going to install all of these updates, but I just and we won't wait around for them to finish up. But I just encourage you to take a look at those hotfixes, and then this just we've mentioned it before, but this cumulative mechanism is designed to be more stable, meaning instead of installing one particular hotfix or another, that you get the hotfixes as a group. We test them as a group, so hopefully that will lead to better stability. I am going to put those aside and we'll go on with some other things here. So I'm going to let those continue to install on my other screen as we talk about other things. We do another event, and it's a weekly event every Friday, this same hour, 10 a.m. Central Time. It's the Low Code Campfire, and that's where we get together, and it's more of a conversation rather than a training thing, although we do talk about there's lots of good training content in there too, but it's driven more by the questions that come from the community or maybe some of the new features that we put in. But it's a nice conversation with a lot of great people, and you'll find that if you'll engage with us on that, you'll get your questions, have opportunity to ask questions, and tell us exactly where you're struggling, and we'll answer that, and then maybe you'll learn from the struggles of others as well. Um, we have a number of links. I'm going to put these on the chat here so you can find them. But among other things, there's a link to the where you can register in advance for the Low Code Campfire, and then you'll start getting our notifications that's about to start. Those usually come out 1 hour in advance of the meeting. You can also get to our YouTube channel or the community portal or that webinar feedback form. That's where you can tell us more about what you thought about today's presentation or what you'd like to see on another time. All right, that's it for From the Trenches. We get right on to hands-on low coding. And again, today's topic, the title, Precision Search for Large Data Sets, combining Lucene indexing and filters. So it's going to be a little bit of explanation about just some underlying topics, and then we'll dive into the how-to. Um, the the overall, what we're trying to accomplish is to build a dynamic search feature that's fast, even for very large data sets, and accurate. And you're going to see as we get into it that we're using our search feature and the search terms to get close to the data that we want. And then we're going to be using some filters to be precise about the data that we want. And none of it's very hard, but we just have to show you how to configure it. So we'll get into some typical use cases. We're going to build a complete solution from the ground up that's going to demonstrate these fast searches, but we'll build it so that it can be exact. We'll talk about doing some fuzzy searches and also some wildcard searches. So lots going on, but none of it's very complex. So why does it matter? Well, if you want good responsiveness, right? You want to have a good fast search. If your staff has the ability to quickly find the right records and don't have to wait around a long time to find it, that's just efficiency for them. You can add accuracy and security. You'll see us use, for example, last 4 digits of a social security number or a date of birth. That could be a PIN. Maybe if users have a PIN that they need to access their records, you could use that instead of the last 4 of the social security. But it helps find the right record and gets to it very quickly and securely. And then this solution scales with your growth. Your We'll talk a little bit about SQL, but other search methods might, the more records you have, the longer it's going to take. With a Lucene-based search, you get answers almost instantaneously and doesn't bottleneck as your data grows. So getting to the core of what we're going to do today, it's really working in three areas. We want to configure our search product, Search Boost, so that it knows about the data that we want to search. We have actions. The main one is perform search that will go look at the index that's created by Search Boost. And then finally, we're going to get results back from that action. We're going to do something with them. So we'll parse that and use it. So the use case that we're going to talk about, I mean, you'll have to figure out what your use case is, but the one we're going to focus on is a borrower search or a bank or a lending institution, and the borrower comes in and says, "My name is," okay, what's the last four of your social security number or your birth date? And we'll look you up in the system. So that's where we're going, and it's going to be very fast, going to be very accurate, very easy to use. Um, and so let's talk about, we'll do an overview of the form fields that we're going to do and the data that's going to be searched. I'm going to do that by reviewing a pre-built solution. I've already done this work uh, and it's available on the Low Code Campfire website. For any of you who participate in Low Code Campfire, you'll be able to see all the information. We give you access to this system and the ability to see how these things are built. So I'm just going to refresh the screen so it starts from the start, and I'll explain. We got two pieces. So this is a search form that'll be the end of what we build today. And then I've put a borrower cheat sheet here. This would not typically be on the screen for somebody using this form, but I have it here so that we can see our test data. And I don't have a lot of records in here. I only have 40 records. So we're really not demonstrating the speed of this search, although uh, if it had a million records, it would still be incredibly fast. What I'm going to demonstrate then where we're going to end up is if we search for somebody with the last name of White, we're going to get search results, and notice that we're already seeing some fuzzy search results. It's Thomas White is there, but spelled with a different way. Let's look at these two, Daniel Harris. So if we could do, we could kind of do you know, the spelling of this first name, this last name. We're getting two records back. It's smart enough to figure that out. And if we do the last four of the social security number and do the search on that, now it filters in on exactly the one that we want. So in the scenario where somebody comes up to the desk and says, "Hi, I'm Brian Clark," you could say, "Brian Clark, what's your last four digits of your social security number?" Ah, I found your record, and then be able to open that up in a new tab, or where in my case, it's a new tab, but you're able to get to the record, see all the information. So it's a very quick process. That's where we're going for. I've generated some test data here, and I've actually generated some the ability. We'll be using this exact data, so we'll be importing that into our solution today. Just because it has some of these nice misspellings or different spellings, similar spellings. Okay, so that's where we're going. If that's what you want to learn about, then please do invest the next 45 minutes with us, and we'll show you exactly how to build that. So some of the key concepts. What is Search Boost or the search feature? Um, well, it's the easy way to get into Lucene indexing. Behind the scenes, it builds Lucene indexes on your data. There's a lot of different kinds of data that you can put in there, and we've covered search in the past. So I recommend that you go to our YouTube channel and look for search or search boost. You'll find older episodes that cover the product as a whole. But today we're going to be focusing just on SQL. There's the ability to add SQL data into the index, and we'll do that by a SQL statement. We're going to be ignoring other data like your page content of your website, things like that. We're just going to be focusing on SQL data. Uh, but Lucene Index, and again, this is something that's you can look at on the internet to learn more about it, but it's a way that does that indexes the data and stores it in such a way that you can get very fast, under 1 second lookups, even in massive data sets, as compared to doing a SQL query with a SQL-like clause or other SQL where clauses that slow down dramatically and take a lot more effort to generate results. And then because of the way that Lucene works, it provides features like fuzzy matching and wildcards and putting the most relevant results up on the top. So we'll be doing, and we can see that even, I suppose that would be good to demonstrate um, the relevancy. If I search for uh, White here, notice that it puts Thomas White first. If I search for White here, notice that it puts Thomas White with a Y first. So we're seeing relevancy, but still the fuzzy card stuff working. Stuff like that would be very difficult to do with SQL. So it's purpose-built for this kind of sophisticated, flexible, scalable search. Yeah, so you end up getting fast, accurate, friendly, no matter how big your data gets, and users don't have to be exact or perfect in their queries. So in our work today, we're going to start out by creating a borrower entity, and so we'll create that as we've done in the past. Uh, um, So there was a question that came up. If you don't mind, I will cover that kind of we'll come back to that in the question and answer at the end. Um, so we're going to do the um, create a borrower entity. We're going to get that sample data in there so we can have some nice realistic testing. And so that's where we're going to start today. Um, I'm going to move my demonstration screen out of the way here. And um, this is our uh, website that we use month after month. We just keep enhancing this with our different demos. So we're going to add a menu option here to our demo stack that says uh, that it's going to be the borrower lookup. And so that's where we're going to start today. I'm going to go into the configuration page of this and add a page, and this is where we'll be doing all of our building. On 127, we have this concept of developer seats, and apparently I wasn't activated, so I had to work through the activation dialog quickly here. So this is going to be in the form of an entity. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry, a page. We were creating a page, so this is on our demo page. So we'll look up our demo page and go into it, and then we'll create a new page called borrower. Let's call it borrower lookup. That's a little bit friendlier. And we're going to make it that everyone can look at this page and reserve editing for our developer roles and save that. So as a result of that, we now have on our demo, we have a borrower lookup menu option and an empty page. And empty pages with this platform often come with an HTML element that we don't need, we won't be using, so I'm just going to delete that out. That's very cosmetic, but at least it's there, we know about it. All right. Then the next thing is that we want to have an entity that's going to go on underneath this borrower lookup, and I am going to export the entity and then explain it. We'll import it and explain it. So make it a little bit faster than typing it out. So here we go. In the entities, we're going to create a new entity, and in this case, I'm importing it. It's going to create the borrower entity. You could have typed this by hand, so we're creating its borrower, plural borrowers. We want it to display in the menu, but we're going to put it beneath our page that we've just created, the borrower lookup page, so it's kind of contained there. In terms of the properties, we get the standard system properties. We're adding a name property, which is our display name. That'll be clickable. Another property called SSN4, which is intended to hold Social Security, last four digits of Social Security, and a date field called date of birth. And we're not, from a permission standpoint, we'll make it where all users can see all entries. So even somebody browsing to this page will be able to see that, but you'll want to consider your own security scenario. And so I'm going to save at that and merge the changes, which will result in, if I refresh the page, we now have our borrower lookup and we have borrowers. And so now we get our standard plant and app maintenance screen where you can add new borrowers and their information. I don't really want to type all of my test data, so I'm going to build a import form. You can do this in any number of ways, but I'm just going to add a form to the page to do that and show you. I think this is a good pattern to know how to build an import page. It's very quick for this transporting data or test data. I'm going to build a form that is going to accept some JSON data that looks exactly like our entity and import it. So let me get there. I am going to do this by having a large text field that we can paste some JSON into, and I'm going to call it in JSON. And this is for just for me. It doesn't have to be fancy, but it's going to be a spot to accept some JSON. And we're going to have a button that says import. The button action is going to be that we want to create a list from the JSON because this list is then going to be very quick to iterate through. So we add an action that is a list from JSON. We're going to use whatever is pasted. That's the name of our field from above. Let's look. We have our field in JSON. Here is its name. So we're using that, and it's going to create a list that's called, we can call it anything we want. In my case, I'm going to call it in list. I'm going to copy that so I can use it here in a minute. So our next action is the thing that's going to let us loop through that and add it very quickly. So for each, we're looking for a execute actions for each list entry. And the list name that we're going to process through is in list. And the action list is what we're looking for. Uh, we have our create new borrower action. This was created for us when the entity got created. And so we can just fill in the blanks for how to create a new borrower. Well, when this iterates through here, there is um, entity, a prefix called, a token prefix called enlist, and it has all the fields that are part of the uh, create this, whatever was in JSON, whatever our fields were, are going to be there. So we're going to have our enlist name, um, our enlist social security number, and enlist date of birth. And so for each record that it finds, it's just going to loop through there. And then finally, we want to, we'll do another action that is to refresh our listing. So as soon as everything's been added to the borrowers, we now refresh the borrower listing. So yeah, that's a very quick import. Let's see how it works. We'll go all the way to the top here and save that and go back, see what we get. So now we have our borrower listing, but then this is the import form down below. And somewhere here I have the JSON. I'll show it to you. So we have JSON that has names and social security numbers and date of birth, all those fields. This is actually created as an export from our other um, my preparation one, but wherever your data comes from. And I'll just mention I used AI to come up with this data originally. I told it what kind of field names and data that I wanted and names that conflicted and things like that. And did a great job of coming up with some nice test data. So that's a technique worth seeing. Anyway, we have all this data. I'm going to click import. And so now it created a list out of it. It looped through it. It added all these records to it. And so now we have good test data. And so the normal plant and apple functionality, being able to search, because this is a searchable field, we can narrow in on our records, but it's doing it by way of a SQL query, and the speed comes into play. Also, if I um, look for Johnston, we don't see the other spelling variations versus one without a T and like that. So we're already kind of seeing the functionality that we're trying to conquer by way of using our search index. Um, yeah, one last thing on this managing of the form. Well, a couple things. First of all, I'm going to call this my import form, so it's very clear what it is. Second of all, there's these I really want to get this import form out of the way until I need it. So instead of making it visible all the time, I'm going to say that it's the display mode is visible in text. Excuse me. And I'm going to edit the template, and we'll change this. Click here to import. So this is a nice little technique to get something out of the way that you only use from time to time. So now when we look at this form, and I'm going to close out of edit mode, the click here to import form is there. If you click on it, now it shows up and you can use it. And yeah, so that's the importing functionality, and we have our 40 records that we'll be using for the rest of this. All right. Um, So going on to the next steps, we've got our data imported. So I've already mentioned you could just implement this as a listing, maybe with some SQL and some where clauses in the data source, and you could do a like query or an exact query. But again, pointing out the issue, the more records that you get in here, the slower it's going to be. If you're going to have 100 records in your data, probably not worth spending a lot of time on trying to do a search unless you need the fuzzy capabilities. But if you know that you're going to have 1 million records, you should be thinking about that right away. All right. Um, so we've kind of hit these points that why SQL alone isn't enough. So we'll move on. The first step, now we're getting down to the core of the solution. The first thing we're going to need is a search boost behavior for the borrower entity. So let's take a look at that. In Plant an App on the configuration menu, there's this search, and I'm going to bring it up, my pre-built solution so I don't go too far afield. Each search boost, each behavior is a separate search index. And so by default, there's one that comes in that's set up on your site called Site Search, and it's got a lot of things, but it doesn't, we're going to want to create a behavior that's specifically about borrowers. So we'll give it the name borrowers. And so now we can configure that. We're working on the borrower's behavior. Where does the data that goes into this come from? Well, we don't want it to come from the pages and the folders of our site. So I'm going to disable all of that. And we're going to add a data indexing rule. So a new rule. The rule is going to be, we'll give it a name. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to call it borrower database. And the description is optional, but the main thing that we want to get to here is the query string. This is going to determine what data we're going to get. So you would normally, I mean, I have this pre-built, you would normally go to the SQL console and build up whatever the SQL is that is going to be used to, this is what's going into your index. And I'll just mention a couple things. First of all, we want the ID of the item so that we can link to it. Indexing is done on a text basis. These indexes are text. Doesn't do dates very well. So we're converting this date of birth to year, month, day format so that that's what we'll index, and so it'll be very fast, but we're going to have to search when we use this based on this same format. We're putting their name, getting their name, their social security number, and then I'm doing another column called borrower. I'll show you how that comes into play. It's kind of a extra or almost unnecessary thing, but I'll explain it here as we go. So once you have built up good SQL, you do load columns, and this is going to go get all the columns that you want to create an index for. And so I'm just going to select all of these. These things will be included in our Lucene index, and so anytime you're doing a search for those, they're going to be very fast. I'm going to do I'm going to cover all of this at one time. This is almost something that you could defer into a later step. But in my case, the question is, we were going to want to generate a link. Where do we want to go when um, when somebody finds one of these and clicks on it? And I'm going to pre-build a URL that's going to go to the particular ID. And let me show you how I get that. Um, when we go to the basic functionality of Plant an App, notice that there's these hyperlinks, and um, if you click on one particular user, it goes to a particular URL. It uses the borrower ID to get to this. So this is the page, in my case, this is to demonstrate what we're going to do. This is the page that I want to go to. I'm going to uh, select this URL format, this partial link here, and use that in the configuration of my search boost. So but I don't want to say that I want to go to borrower ID 31. I want to say I want to go to borrower ID and then use the token ID. So this is going to build a link for me to use when we want to navigate to the one that they pick. All right. Next, we have to specify a couple of things. The ID, a unique ID, has to be specified, and that is our ID column. The title column I am going to select as being the name of the person. So that's what's going to be considered the title of the returned results. I don't have to do a description, and we don't really need it for this use case. So I am going to skip on down to what we do need, which is here in the custom data fields. Anything that you want to use as filtering so that you can get exactly to that spot, you want to turn on as custom data. Now, in my case, I'm going to turn on all of them. You might be more judicious. You might have some things in here that you don't want to turn on. Um, and you know, I'm going to back up and kind of talk about strategy for just a second. In this, when we did this SQL query, we're doing a pretty simple case, and basically everything in our entity we want to be in the index. But if you had things that don't belong in the index, for example, you had a lot of borrower information or a borrower history, a large paragraph or a resume or whatever it is, uh, you don't need it in this. If you don't need it in the search, don't put it in the input query. Just limit yourself to the things that are important to that. And then in this case, I'm going to index all the fields that I did provide. All right. And so we save that. When we save it, one thing that's important to note, uh, we're still working on our borrower's behavior, but we need to turn on this rule. Just because we create it doesn't mean that it's turned on. When we turn it on and say save, we get prompted to reindex. Um, this is the point at which it's building the index. It's creating that Lucene. And we can see that these are going to show up as in the dashboard index content. We see that we have 40 database entries. And so that corresponds to our 40 records. Pretty good confirmation that it worked. Um, if it were a million records, it might take a while, anywhere from a minute to 10 minutes, who knows, to build it. But ours built almost instantly because we're really only working with a small data set. All right, so just for fun, once you build an index, you can do a test search. So if we type a name, we can see that we're getting a result and what information is stored. So we can see if we know what we're looking at, we can see this is that date of birth number and the last four of the Social Security. And so we can see that it's getting what we expect. Um, but we haven't turned on any of the fuzzy search kind of things yet. So we're not seeing the other white. So anyway, we can see now that at least it's kind of working as expected. Um, so we've worked through it. We've created a new behavior. We've made SQL that accesses the fields that needed to be indexed, and then we turned on custom data for anything that we're going to filter on. So we worked our way through that slide. And so now we're down to let's make a form that's going to be all about the simple search for our end user to use. So it needs borrower and this date of birth field and the social security number. So I'm going to build this on our borrower lookup page that we created. This is just going to be adding a form to the page. And we'll go ahead and say manage form, starting out as a blank form. And we're going to need these three things. So, and I'm going to do this simply at first. We'll enhance it as we have time, but we're going to collect for our borrower. We're going to have another one that is, I'm just going to do this as a text field for our date. See how I named it over here to be consistent. And I'm going to name it some, that's the label, but I'm going to name it something different for easy to type. DOB, YMB, your month today. And then we'll do another text field that is for last four of social security number, and we're going to name that SSN4. If we save that and take a look at it, we see the beginning of our form. It's not laid out very nicely, so we'll do a little bit of layout work on it here, and we'll give it a name. Will be our search form, and I'm going to go with a left layout so that at least makes sense. Maybe we work with that a little bit more, but it gives us a spot to fill all that in. And so now we can go on to our button. So we'll have a search button that's going to be using the perform search action. So let's add a search button to this form. We do that here. Add a button. It's going to be called search. And in our actions, we're going to look and find the search actions and use the perform search action. The perform search, we got a action. We're going to configure it at first to just do the basics, and then we'll enhance it. So we pick our behavior. See, it has the two behaviors that are in our search configuration. We're going to pick we want to search through the borrower's index. We're going to leave a lot of these things defaulted, but the search term that we want to apply is the same thing that they typed in here, this borrower. So I'm going to copy that field ID to the clipboard. And so we'll say borrower. The value of borrower is going to be our search term. And the results that it's going to give us, this comes in the form of JSON. And so we're going to name it whatever you like, but I'm going to call mine results JSON. I want to see the results of this without any particular formatting. So there's a nice debugging technique. You can display an error message and show that field in the error message, and that gets it onto the screen very quickly. So we refresh, and So if we do a search for white and search, we get JSON coming back, and we can see it has Thomas White in it, and it has some lots of other stuff. Because this is a little bit hard to read, I'm going to put it into an editor so we can see the JSON quite nicely. So that search action returns back some metadata, and so it tells you things like how many results you got and what the score. This is a number, I believe, between 0 and 1. So higher numbers, better score. And then the execution time, I believe, is in milliseconds. So you can see this search returned returned very quickly. And this would be the place that you could monitor how fast your searches are returning if you have very, very large data sets. Um, and then each one of these, there's an array of results. And so this is one result. If we had more results, it would be more entries. And so you can see the document ID, which is maybe not relevant, um, where it came from. It came from borrower database. The description has all the fields that we provided it to index. But perhaps most useful and very easy to pick out. Now we see the fields that we added in our custom data are all showing down here in a custom data element. So if you needed to get to exactly um, the fields, you could see you can if you need to extract that from your search result, that would give you a very simple structure to be able to parse. So that's what we get back um, from the perform search action, and this gives us then something to work with. So yeah, let's go on. So now we've added these date of birth and SSN4 filter fields, so let's make sure they're working. Um, and so to wire them up, what we do is in our search form, our search button, in the perform search action, we can add filters. And the first filter that we're going to add is this. We're going to use, and this is the name that comes from Search Boost. So when we were configuring search over here and editing our rule here, when we were configuring uh, this, it's this name that we're going to use now. We're going to filter based on this. And so that's the name that goes there. And the value that we're going to look for is the one from our form, which is this one. And so we'll copy that. It happens to be the same thing, but just wanted you to clearly understand where they came from. So we're taking if they provide a date of birth, YMD, it's going to look at that in the index. And in the same way, we have SSN4 available as a filter. We're going to use that here, and it seems that is also the name of this field, and so we're going to copy that and use it, but that's where it comes from. Whatever you name it, that's what you'll have to use here. So by doing this, these are now going to filter, also be used to filter the results. So let's see what that looks like. If we search for white without providing any of that information, without providing date of birth, last four, it's doing it just based on what we asked for. But we can see that the last four for Mr. White is 7789. If we say 7788 in search, we get no results. If we get, say, 7789 in search, we get it. So these filters are being applied after the keyword search, um, after the search terms are applied. Now the filters are being applied after that, and that lets us do additional lookups. So let's also kind of demonstrate this. We have date of birth in this year, month, day format. If we add that to our criteria, it's still going to find the record. But if we're off on our birth date isn't exact, then we're seeing that that filter is being applied, and we're correctly not getting a return of a result. So kind of going back to our objectives here, we've added and configured both the date of birth and the social security number filters to be able to narrow the results very quickly. So there's a couple of things more we'll do. One of them is we would want to be able to parse this JSON and be able to provide a nice list rather than the one that this. So let's spend a minute or so, well, a few minutes, 5 minutes, doing that. And so we're going to accomplish that by adding a field in our search form. That is going to be used. We're just going to create some, we're going to do it simply in HTML. And so that can be done with a static text field. So I'm going to say static text, and I'm going to name it results. So whatever we put here into results is going to display, in this case, below the search button. And so now the challenge is filling that up, initializing it and filling it up. So our action stack, the perform search, gets a little bit more complex, and but we can do this pretty straightforward. So the first thing is we're going to create or update tokens and put this before our search that says that we want to initialize the results. And so results is going to be set to search results and a horizontal line. So just clicking the button, this is going to initialize the results. The next step that we're going to want to do is we need to parse that JSON that came back. So perform search is giving us results JSON. We want to parse that. We're not going to display an error message, so I'm going to get that out of the way. Just flag it for delete. Parse JSON into tokens, and we're parsing that results JSON, and we're returning it. I'm going to pick R as my name. So this is going to create tokens that begin with this key of R. I'm going to just add the actions. We'll see them at work if you follow along with me. There's this, it should work for you as well. So we're going to do a create list from JSON. The list that we want to do is going to be this one. It's R:results. Now bear in mind, when we were looking at our JSON earlier, that results was something that got returned in the JSON, and there's going to be an R:results. So when we say here r:results, it's everything within this array. And so we want to parse this array, and we're going to put it in the results list. And now we can walk through that results list by doing a for each execute actions for each list entry, looking on the results list. And with that, every time we get a new item in that array, we want to add to our results static text. So we will do a create update token, and this is we're making results equal to whatever it was before, but then we're adding, and I'm going to cheat here a little bit and do a little copy and paste, but we're getting the results list URL and the results list title. Well, the results list URL is one of the things that's in there. And the results list title, where is the title? There it is. It's right here. So we're getting results list title, and we're formatting that into a nice displayed. So we're using the link to make a link, and we're displaying the title as text. And so that's getting added on each time. And then finally, we'll do an Ajax update form, Ajax, so that the results list gets displayed. All right, let's see what that looks like. So now when we search for White, we get Thomas White, and it's a link. And if we click on it, it uses the link that we provided to Search Boost to open up the link that we want it to open. So we're seeing a lot of good work there. And then if we don't have an exact match, then it just comes up empty because nothing ever gets, there's nothing got returned, nothing gets added on, so that field just gets initialized. All right, so that's a quick way to do some formatting. Let's go to, I think we're up to the fun stuff now. So let's turn on fuzzy search so that we can get those nice functionalities, also wildcard search, and see what that looks like when we do that. So back on our search setup, um, we want to make sure that we select that we're doing our borrower behavior. There's some settings here that you'll want to turn on. They are in, I believe they're in search options. And one of them is fuzzy search. And with this test data, I've done a little bit of testing in it. You'll have to pick how similar a search that you want to do. I found that 70 worked pretty good for the data that we have, but you might need to adjust that. And then I'm also turning on wildcard search. Now this is not, you see a warning here that it's not compatible with highlighting. So I have to turn highlighting off in order to be able to do wildcard search, but I'm enabling wildcard search. So with those two changes and saving it, it asks me to re-index. And again, when you change these settings in Search Boost, it's going to take the time to rebuild that index and in order for them to be effective. And so just warning that when you make those changes to your setup, it might take a while. But having done that and dealing with a small data set works very quickly. If I now search for white, I'm starting to see these variations, right? And if I search for, I can also search for, if I search for Tom, I don't get anything, but maybe I search for Tom and an asterisk, and I get Dave Thomas, Dave White. So the wildcarding is now active as well. And then in my data, realize, and this is just where you have to know that your data, but this last four of the social security number, if you knew that Dave Thompson was 2324 and you did a search, now that's the only one that you're going to get. So you have this nice combination of wildcarding and last four. So with that, I've hit most of the things I wanted to talk about, and I do want to be able to give you some little time for questions and answers. So that's coming up very quickly. There's some while you're considering any questions that you might have, wanted to mention just some best practices. So don't put if you don't you want to be cautious about what data that you put in your search so that you don't accidentally reveal if you depending on how you consume a search, maybe if you had full social security number as part of your search information, maybe it would be showing up in the description. So don't index, don't put things that you don't need, and then be careful about how they're being revealed. Um, if you have a large data set, and I mentioned it might take 10 minutes or could be an hour, depending on how much data you have that for it to index. So you're going to want to set those up to index and during off-peak hours and use incremental indexing wherever you can. So uh, search has the capability of setting up a schedule to do it. I think it's by default it happens once per day, but you might look at that the search options and oops, sorry, and do that less frequently or only as frequently as you need. There's some options in there where you can use pagination, so no sense in returning 1,000 records if you only need 10. So use pagination to keep that to a minimum. We saw us apply the filters, but you want to do those as soon as possible before you do the search versus trying to filter after you get the result back so that you're using the power of search to do the filtering. And then the next topic is pretty good consideration, index maintenance. If you have new borrowers, in our case, coming in, um, uh, being added to the database, they don't automatically get added to the Lucene index. There are actions available in that search functionality where you can tell it to do an incremental index or even add a particular record or remove a record if you're doing deletes. So you can actively maintain the index as changes are happening to your database or and do the occasional re-index of the database. So just give some consideration to how you're going to maintain the indexes. This slide was just talking about other use cases for this. I'll just skip down to the real world example. We had a client, it was a government, they wanted to verify citizenship status. So their use case was tell me your name and your date of birth. And by keying in those two facts, name and date of birth, if it matched, they got a positive confirmation. So it was just more of a yes, no, yes, this is a citizen, no, this is not a citizen, without revealing any additional information or having a link. But you can think about how this works in your scenario. with that, there was the one question that happened early on, but if you have more questions, it'd be a great time to add it. Mark asked about uh, the pluses and minuses of using Search Boost as opposed to the out of the box filtering on the table. And so that question was about when you do an entity and you have um, there is this enable indexing option, and if you turn it on, it turns it on automatically for search. So if you turn this on, you just need to know what you're getting. The fields that are defined as searchable uh, in your entity are going to be part of the search index. So don't turn, again, security wise, don't turn on anything that you don't want to be revealed. But if you were to turn that on, then the search capability of your site would have everything that's in that index in it, and you would be able to search for it this way. And it returns data outside of your control. It returns it in a more of a Google-like search list where it has hyperlinks and descriptions. And perhaps if that suits your needs, then it's certainly easier than going through creating a search form. But if you want a search form where you control the results and you do what you want with them, that's the benefit of using this extra, going to this extra effort. So yeah, that got an answer to the one question we have. If there's any other questions, I'll entertain them. Other than that, I'll just thank you for spending your hour plus with us. If you do have more questions, I'll just encourage you that we'll be taking this up to the degree anybody's interested in the Low Code Cafe coming up, Low Code Campfire coming up in 2 days. And so we'll go behind the scenes and take a look at more of that. So I will. Thank you for spending your hour plus with us. We do appreciate any feedback that you give to us, and we will be back in a month with another great low code topic. Thanks all.